Good stuff. Okay. So here we are. This is the last Inspired Sale Incubator class before we actually have our full-blown Inspired Sale class next week. I'll explain more about that later. But for today, for right now, welcome. Today we are going to make our way through step 7 in the Inspired Sale class, and then next week we'll pick up from step 8 and finish the Inspired Sale and have a chance to put all the pieces together. I know at this point for a lot of people, the sales system feels a little disjointed because we've been looking at individual pieces instead of looking at the whole flow. That's normal right now. If you're feeling like this is really, really disjointed, that's actually normal because you can't learn everything at once. So we have to learn pieces by pieces. And this gives you the opportunity to sort of dive into each individual piece. But then next week, we'll start to pull all the little pieces together and have an opportunity to see how it flows in its entirety. So just as a show of hands, and if you don't mind, use the little hand on the screen so that it stays up there for just a second. Just as a show of hands, and this is going to be more pointed at the design associates, I know. How many of you last week, within the last week, how many of you have either landed a job on your own, or you were with your franchise owner on a ride along and you guys landed a job? So just put your little hand up on the screen there. How many of you have landed a job or you were with somebody that landed a job? And I'm expecting Spencer to put 2 hands up. Good stuff. Good stuff. I love it. I love it. Look at all these hands. All right. So I'd like to
it disappears.
I'd like to go through the room, and as we transfer in, if you were on a job where you had a landed sale, the question for you is this: what made them decide to buy from you? So if you had multiple ones, just pick one of them, right? Just pick one of them. So maybe you were with Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Well, what was it that made Mr. and Mrs. Smith buy from you today, the day that you sold the job? If you were not on a job, you didn't see one that landed or whatever else, that's okay too. I want you to answer the same question that we've been answering, and that is, what is the most significant thing that you've learned in the last week? So Ethan Campbell, you got your hand up. What made them decide to buy from you today?
Well, they actually explicitly told me that it was from the setup call to the customer service and how I presented myself at the appointment that made them decide to buy. We did come in about $1,100 more than the other quote that they had. But I also presented a superior product for that price as well. And just told them, hey, I'm going to be the only one you're going to contact through this next month of the project. And I'll be here the day they install, and I'll be here to do your happiness check after.
Wow. So you weren't the cheapest price? You mean you sold it and you weren't the cheapest price?
Yeah, I had 3 of those last week that I was about 1,500 more, and I got all of them.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Sherry, your hand's up.
What made the buyers decide to buy was being educated. The one customer that we were with said she just felt very at ease when we left, and she said that she felt very comfortable with us, and because of that and us explaining everything and answering all her questions, the sale went, and we walked out with a check.
Nice. Adam Alexander, your hand's up.
Yeah, we landed the sale because of our presentation is what the customer told us, and the fact that we had other referrals. She had other projects going on, so we had people that we could refer to her to help her with those other projects.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So working some of that local networking, working some of those referrals in. I love it. Aaron, what made them decide to buy from you today? Where did Aaron go?
There I am.
There he is.
Couldn't get off mute. She liked the fact, she was hugely impressed of us bringing the samples into her home. And I've kind of developed this thing for me where I basically say, these are yours for however long you need to do whatever you do with them, take them around, do whatever. And so she was a little older, so I helped her move. I actually moved a piece of furniture so we could put it up against the wall so she could see the wall and the carpet. And then she also said just the fact that we weren't pressured. I was not pressured. She actually said, let me have the weekend to think about it, and I will call you on Monday. I said, sure, what do you need to think about? She's like, well, I just want to talk about this or that. And then she said, well, let me text a friend of mine. And she texted a friend that had products put in by another company, and they had less square feet done, less quality, and they were more.
Nice. I love it. I love it. Let's see, Julie, what made them decide to buy from you?
Well, the very first job that I went on by myself, I landed, and they said they bought from me because I was personable. They could shop in their own home, and that they saw me arrive 5 minutes early.
I love it. I love
Yeah,
it.
they saw me out the window and they said, we love it that you were early. So
People appreciate that. Good. Cody.
Hey, what's going on, Arlen? How are you?
Good, good.
So long story short, it was actually one of my good buddies from high school. It was his mother-in-law. So just I kind of had a connection. She obviously trusts her son-in-law enough to say, hey, yeah, I went to high school with this guy. I can vouch for him. Still went through the whole inspired sales process, but she liked everything she heard. And so sold her a luxury vinyl plank, nice Cali product. And she's excited to we just delivered the product. She's excited to get the ball rolling here soon.
I love it. I love it. Spencer. So everyone, Spencer, as you guys know, is a franchise owner. The business is not technically even open yet. He's out there doing work even before the business is officially open and landing jobs. So Spencer, what made them decide to buy from you today?
Probably got them to buy today was the fact that we brought the product in the home and was able to show them in places. They had just redone a fireplace themselves, and that was a big feature that they were looking for. And to lay the product down next to it, they were looking at a light color, and they ended up going with a shade darker because it complemented their tile work that they had done. The other thing that was big was the financing. They didn't even know we did financing. I didn't mention it right away. I believe I mentioned it to them at the home show. So this was actually a home show client of ours that we got into a home show last minute and was able to get a couple appointments out of it. And this was one of them. So the financing was a big deal for them.
Fantastic. I love it. I love it. Jake Evans.
Yeah, we had one that we closed last week. And at the end, when we asked why they bought from us, they just mentioned our responsiveness. So they actually had to reschedule twice. And I was able to just keep in contact with them over the course of about a week and a half, responding within about an hour of every text. And they hadn't had that from anybody else. So they enjoyed the responsiveness.
Love it. Let's see. How about Paul Beaudry?
I had actually two and a credit reject. The first one, they were just friends of mine. I hadn't seen in about 5 years. Met them at the home show, and they bought a Hemispheres product, about $7,600. The second one, I had a flood in my basement, so I bought my own carpet. It's being installed on the 23rd. And the third one was a credit reject. They were ready to go. They applied for credit, and unfortunately, they were denied. So he's waiting for his home equity loan, and he'll call me as soon as he has that. So I count that as a plus for me.
Nice, nice. Let's see. How about Paul Dunn? Paul, you're still muted.
It's not
There he
the
is.
that we have done things, but we're in a customer's house. It's an old house by a pond. And they were all ready to sign on the dotted line with Home Depot. And even though we were significantly more expensive, they just liked the way we presented ourselves and also outlined the whole installation process that they saw was going to be different and better than what they were going to get with Home Depot. But to seal the deal, it was the humor that actually did it. We were trading stories on pest removal. They have a huge infestation of ants, mice, squirrels, raccoons, all over where this house is located. And we were trading stories of getting rid of them in very humorous and unique ways. And they said, okay, that's it, you're hired.
I love it. I love it. So you make a personal connection with people. Sometimes it's around common hobbies. Sometimes it's around common pests. Right?
Exactly.
I like it.
Mhm.
I
Whatever's
like
needed.
it. Everything works. Will.
So we actually had landed one this past week, and the biggest thing that came down to was the difference between them and us is that just the process, how we went through it of really nailing that relationship, exactly what you just said, over just a sale. Like she was really surprised because we were there for longer than 30 minutes. And then she had said that, and we ended up standing another, I think, like hour or something. So we were just there for such a long time, and she seemed to appreciate that because we weren't wasting her time as well.
Nice. I love it. I love it. So as you listen to all these different reasons that people bought, right? Some people, it's the way that you handled the sample. Some, you showed up at my house 5 minutes early. For somebody else, I didn't hear it today. Sometimes it'll be just the fact that you put on booties on your feet. For some people, it's you nailed that video that you showed me, or I love the process. I love the fact that you told me about your company. So you never know which one of the elements. So, I mean, we cover a bunch of bases with the sales system, and you never know which one of the elements is going to hit exactly, right? First and foremost, people buy from people. So when you walk in the door and you make, whether it's around pest control or a piece of art on the wall or whatever it is, you make a connection with somebody. That's the first and foremost thing. And then, of course, being able to work through the company story and explain to the customer what it is, who we are, and how we do it. Being able to work through product and showing the customer a product that meets their needs. And then finally, a price that's not, it doesn't have to be the lowest price. In fact, most of the time, we're not going to be the lowest price. I would challenge you, if you find that you're constantly the lowest price, you're leaving money on the table, because you should be able to sell a little bit higher than your competition. You're offering a better service. And those four things together, when you put those four things together, there's nothing stopping you from being able to land a sale. And then, of course, you need extra tools. You've got financing tools. Spencer talked about the fact that his customer wanted financing. Great. You got financing tools at your fingertips to help you with that deal. So I think I got everybody that said that they had landed a job. If I get to you and you had, then please speak up. But otherwise, I want to know, what's the most significant thing that you learned in the last week? And Dan Adkins, I will start with you.
There it is. Learning some harsh lessons. I think probably the one that is most applicable to everybody here is that if I wait too long to get some things done, when I'm ready to pull the trigger, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people on the other end of the line are ready to pull the trigger. And I don't have a time machine. So whether it's getting a wrap install scheduled, or getting feedback from vendors that I'm attempting to set up wholesale accounts in a hurry. If I could go back in time 3 weeks, I'd be like, stay up an extra hour, get up an hour earlier on Sunday, and get some of this, done, because it's going to bite you in the tail in about 10 days. So I'm not in a bad place, but I'm a lot of reality checks going on right now. So, yeah.
Got it. All right, let's see. Jenny, if you can do this without running off the road.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'm driving. I apologize. I was a part of 2 sales that landed. I couldn't raise my hand because I was driving, but one was a sand and finish job, and we did a great job taking extra time, explaining the process and the different steps and the products we would use. And we got a call back that we were a little high, but my owner, Mike, kind of was able to pick apart the quote from the other company. And we were still we came down a little, but we still wound up being about $1,200 higher. And they still went with us because they appreciated our walk them through the process.
Nice. I love it. And Janie, I'll go to another car rider right now. Janie, what's the most significant thing that you've picked up in the last week?
So I had the chance, oh, can you guys hear me? I'm not
Yep,
sure what
we
my
got
headphones, okay. I had the chance to go help at a home show last Friday with our neighboring franchisee, and that was my first time doing it. And it was amazing to see just how important a connection is. So of the people that we scheduled appointments with, you know, it was people who were excited and ready to work and had a job that was ready to go. But there were people that didn't schedule appointments, but that you could tell appreciated the time we'd spent talking to them and the time we'd spent educating them. And, you know, the Browns have multiple times had people come back and call them and say, I saw you at the home show last April, you know, 9 months later, said, I loved that you spent time talking to me. I'm ready to do my appointment, ready to do my project, ready to move forward. So just recognizing that it's us as people spending time treating people like people that's going to make a difference for them.
Thank you for that. Nice. Let's see. How about Josefina?
Okay, now yes. I feel like then I feel pretty the same. And also what I realized that last week, it's like I'm learning again. I mean, I don't know if relearning, you know, it's I used to be a community manager to work a customer service or customer experience. And now what I see it, you know, I have to put those books, you know, aside and relearn everything in a different way. So I think that I realized that last week, you know, like, okay, just leave all the things that you know away and start learning again. So for me, marketing last week, it was like kind of big thing.
Nice, nice. Let's see. Sawyer.
Yep. So this past week, I learned a little bit about, we went to this one house and they had layers of like subfloor, just layers and layers and layers of subfloor. And they also had the 1.5-inch planks on one part of their floor. And I thought that was really cool to see, first of all, because I've never seen that before. And so we're talking about the asbestos, about how we can go about that, because there's on one of the layers there's asbestos. And you know, I was talking to my manager about how we go about that, and she just said, as long as we don't stir it up or anything like that, we can still just build on top of it, as we don't have to. If we can put something on it doesn't get in the air, then it's still good. But if we do have to take that up, then it'd be a lot more money for the customer to do that. So we're talking about how we can still not have to build on top, not have to take it up, but build right on top of it. And yeah, I think he's going to work with us on that.
Nice, nice. Let's see, Raul, your biggest takeaway from the last week?
I think my biggest takeaway is that things that on the surface look pretty simple aren't necessarily such. And for example, as I'm going through the price list, I'll see something that says like basic underlayment. And so I'll reach out to the flooring companies that I'm talking to, and everybody's got their labeled underlayment. So it's hard to compare exactly what my price list says compared to what theirs is. And so I'm having a little hard time with the translation of just the materials we use.
Okay. All right, good. So that's something that we can work on. Good. Let's see, Craig, your biggest learning from the last week?
Me? I thought you said Craig.
Craig.
The thing I've learned is it's easy to get down. You know, there's always, especially in sales, there are going to be ups and downs. You're going to lose deals. I mean, it's just a fact. And I had such a horrible day yesterday, but I'm in so much of a better mood now. It's just, I don't know. The thing I've learned is just remain positive. You know, even when the chips are down, you know, it'll get better, kind of thing. And you know, things will fall into place. They always do. And whatever happens happens. That's the way it is.
Good, good. All right, now let's go to Craig in New Jersey. So Craig, you might have your phone muted as well as your Zoom call. You're muted on Zoom right now. And now, all right, so you're unmuted on Zoom, but we still don't hear you. Are you muted on your phone? Or on your headphones?
Sorry.
All right. We had you for a split second, but we don't hear you now.
Hear me now. Hear me now.
We got it. Yep. You had it. We're still missing Craig. I tell you what, we're going to come back to Craig then. I'll let him work on his audio and we'll come back to Craig. Let's go to Evan.
Hi. Lessons learned. Two things. One is I am really jealous of all these new DAs because they have the opportunity to really learn from somebody with experience and go along on all these, dozens of ride-alongs. I've done one ride-along. I learned a ton from it, and that's kind of been it so far. So, and I think it shows in their presentations. The other thing I learned, which I should relearn because I've always known this, but experiencing it, I attended my first BNI meeting very early this morning, and it was really awesome. I was kind of blown away by the I guess the sharing and the power of that networking that goes on. So I would just encourage anybody that has the opportunity to take advantage of that to build your business or build your territory.
Nice. Now let's head to Atlanta. Beto.
Yes. So we were at this customer's house last week, and they truly enjoyed the in-home buying experience. So they wanted to take a look at one product. We show them a few of them, and they truly enjoy the whole in-home coming to me experience, and also how personable we are. And they were amazed that it was going to be just one point of contact. So they say,
Nice.
I really don't have to worry about managing your installers. I don't really want to do it. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are going to handle everything for me. And I don't have to worry about anything else. So that was great. And we landed the job.
I love it. Portia, your biggest learning from the last week?
One, time management, trying to crunch in a lot of proposals. So I was able to get caught up on my proposals. And then also networking with one of the franchise owners here, talking about an install, going to see the install, learning some new tricks of the trade. Didn't know that you can nail into concrete. So just watching that was awesome.
Nice. Let's see, Tom Reeve.
Really what my franchisee is coming up on 2 years, and what's been great about the training is a lot of things that we teach, we're kind of being slid on. So the two things really we have really tightened up on, and we're seeing results in terms of our closing rate going up. So first of all new appointments are now assigned to me. I do all the setup calls, again, to unburden the franchisee, even if he's the one going on the call. And I just say Mike Gagliano, our franchise owner, will be there. But then immediately sending them a text, look forward to seeing you, and say, please check your email. I just sent you a link to review our wonderful 5-star Google reviews. And it'll help you feel much more confident to know you called the right company. That's a step we weren't doing. But the other step, because I haven't sent any proposals yet, I've been on 50 ride-alongs. Mike and I are just now sitting down to do the back end. How do you write up a sales order? How do you write up an installer order? And that in itself is a lot to take in. But the other thing that Mike hadn't been doing is following up on, I do all the follow-up calls on all of the appointments. And I was really shocked to learn, starting doing that last week, that half the people said, I never got your quote. I said, could you do me a favor? Could you check your spam file right now? And sure enough, it was there. So I've emphasized to myself and to Mike, every time we email a quote, you have to say, I just emailed your quote. If you don't see it in your inbox, please check your spam/junk file. It'll be there. Call me with questions. If you don't do that, you're going to lose a lot of jobs because people didn't think they ever got a follow-up from you.
Good learning. I love that. Always follow up. Phone call, text, email. I like to say you pet your customers. Phone call, email, text. Pet them. Okay, you don't physically pet them, but petting them with 3 ways of communication. Good. Let's see. How about Dave Lee?
There we go. But sitting here waiting to that mute button, I was like, alphabetically, I should have been going a long time ago. I'm a little jealous. Changing my name next time. Well, Dan brought up a good point, and that absolutely feels like I'm getting bit in the backside here. So yeah, I'm going down to the Department of Licensing to get my excise tax, my reseller permit, so that I can start filling out applications. I'm not even going to look at a calendar for about the next 2 months because it's just going to depress me. But it's gonna come together, and I just got my phone numbers today, so I was pretty excited. I got to pick 3 numbers and got the 2 that I wanted. So there's my win for the before noon West Coast time. So yeah, it's going to be a busy weekend. Looking forward to getting a lot more things checked off my list, and so yeah, I don't know what date everything is going to land, but it's going to land, and it's going to be amazing. I
love it.
I did stop by and talk to 2 guys I worked with 22 years ago, both in the car industry, and both of them have verbally committed to buying flooring from me. So I was like, well, that's great. And I got 4.8 stars on Google across the board. They're like, we're sold, Dave. Just come out and show me and make it work. I was like, absolutely. So I know I got a couple of deals in the old basket ready to go. These guys are, they're awesome. So I've known them for a long time.
I love it. Go get them. Let's see, Billy Cummins.
Yeah, so the biggest thing would be just the importance of kind of go down your way for the customer. This past week, we had a customer that was a cash and carry. He had his own installers, and so I delivered the material to him and just kind of let them go. And while I was there, I noticed that Shaw had sent 2 baby T-molds, or I'm sorry, 2 T-molds instead of baby thresholds. So the transition to carpet wasn't going to be the correct transition. So I let him know that whenever it came in, I'd let him know. Unfortunately, his installs were already done. I used to install, so I told him that I would take care of it personally for him, and got us a 5-star review on Google. So
I love it. Going the extra mile. Let's see, Charlotte, how about you? Biggest takeaway from the last week?
Yeah, so our co-op here in the Tampa area, for the first time, we just kind of formed in January. We had the opportunity last minute to join into a home show, and I went Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And my biggest takeaway, not just the learning component, but getting to know all of the local owners and teams was fantastic. All of us coming together under the brand to promote the brand, so that as a group, we start really stealing more of that share from our competitors in the whole, Tampa Bay area versus our individual markets, which was great.
I love it. Let's see, San Antonio, Jeff.
Hopefully it works this time.
Yep.
Does it work?
Got you.
We're good?
Yep.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. I think my biggest aha moment was not realizing my need to understand carpet better, because that was my first appointment last week, was a carpet in the month and a half I've been with floors. So again, when you get out into reeled in the field and just continue to know the different specifics today. I can't talk, the more the fab, there you go, of each of the products, and just continue to go over the process as much as you can so you can have a better understanding when you go to that appointment. So that was my aha last week, is to get a better understanding of the carpet program before showing up.
Nice. Let's see, how about Marnie?
Hey, y'all. So I don't know if it was just a takeaway, but we had a customer on Saturday that was not only late, but asked us to wait for 60 seconds. 30 minutes later, we're getting ready to leave. We texted, knocked on the door again. They said, okay, hold on. Well, we noticed that there was other contractors going into the house. So he actually had scheduled 4 installers to give him bids while we were there, and even asked us to, can y'all get out of the bathroom and stop your measuring right now so he can come in and measure. So needless to say, we were not able to give a company story, but it's just, I think that people take advantage of free estimates and they don't realize when we go in with our tablets and our laser that we're really worth it. These guys were just pen and paper. And so that was a big aha, because they will waste your time if they can.
Nice. Yep, it can happen that way. Sometimes a good setup call can stave some of that off, but even with a great setup call, sometimes you still run into it.
Hey, Arlen, what's your take on it? When I'm faced with a situation like that, I say, here's my business card. This is unprofessional to have 4 vendors in your house at one time. We'd be happy to reschedule, but thanks. And I leave, because I've won many of those jobs because they realize, that they're all they're saying to you is, I'm based on price. We're not going to win those jobs. So sometimes it's better off standing out from all the 4 or 5 installers that they had there by simply saying, I don't do business this way. I'd be unprofessional to those people. And frankly, it's a little unprofessional to me. So, and people are like, wow.
What I've done before is simply on the day, simply take measurements and ask the customer when would be a good time for me to come back and pick product together. Because I know the other people that are there they probably don't have product with them. So I'm going to simply reschedule a time where I can be in there by myself.
Just one other contractor had samples.
Yeah, I mean, one of them might, but I want to make sure that I stand out. And if I can't get a second appointment with them, then yeah, they probably weren't my customer to begin with. And that's okay. I don't have to win them all. If I can win 50% of them, I'm really, really happy. Let's see, Keith Thomas.
I think for me, big learning this past week has been on competitive advantage in terms of the eyes of the customer. And we've heard a lot about it here, just the way you present, the single point of contact. I learned a lot last week on online image on how you can make your website more dynamic, both for Google, but also for customer interest. And then in particular, our discussion yesterday on operating hours, which I thought was, kind of wake me up again. Okay, I've got to put myself much more in the customer's shoes and how I'm looking at all these operations and how do I build an advantage so that I get on their radar screen when they go hunting for flooring and find us, rather than whoever else the competition is.
Nice. Let's see, Alana. Where'd she go?
Sorry about that.
Here we
Can you
are.
hear me okay? Hi.
Yeah.
I think every day is a learning experience for me right now, and there is so much information. It's unreal, but I do love going to the customers' houses, and I am jealous of the other DAs who have been on more ride-alongs than me. I have a few tomorrow, which is exciting. But yes, this whole experience is a learning experience in a nutshell. So every day is something new.
Oh, it's a lot.
It is.
It's a lot.
And
Yeah,
carpet, I agree.
Arlen, I have something to say. Can you hear me?
Now we've got Craig.
All
Let's
right,
go,
very
Craig.
good. I got a couple of things I want to go over. I just wanted to say real quick on the company story. I'm a little behind everybody. I'm having a little technology issues. I'm sorry. But I want to let you know. At first I started looking at the company story and going through it, the whole thing. And I thought the best thing for me to do is pick the highlights based on my own experience. Even in my own buying, if I buy something, I know I have an experience. I have a lot of experience in floors, but a lot of things you can just relate to the people that don't. Just use your life experience and what happened when you had to call the BBB. What happened with this situation? And when you read the company story, this is what I got out of it. I'm just going to pick the high points that I find for me are very important. And usually it's the same for the other people. So that's what I thought. The other thing I jokingly, I always like to put humor in what I do. So I thought about, okay, one of the steps is easy. Okay, so what do? I'm gonna tell my customer, listen, I'm gonna make it so easy on you. And they're gonna be like, what are you gonna do? Well, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go to Staples and buy the dumb easy button. I'm gonna say, here, it's easy, isn't it? Press the button. And it breaks it up. It's humor. And if you should get the sale just from that, or they're gonna tell their customer, their friend, their neighbor. Yeah. So that's all.
I love it. I love it. Go get the easy button. Let's see. How about April?
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Definitely learning a lot every day. I'm still going on ride-alongs with my franchise owner, leading most of them. And we've had a few sales. And the biggest thing that I'm learning is drawing on the tablet to get the measurements perfect. It's been really difficult. I've been so frustrated. I've practiced in my own house, and I'm just now getting it right where it doesn't go into a big diagonal at the end. So that's actually my biggest learning experience.
Nice. Let's see, Dan Lyman.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I think, look, I like everyone. I think I learn a lot every day. And that's not going to stop. And I think that maybe the biggest realization for me over the past week is that, those of us that are in my class are opening on April 3rd. And, there's been some anxiety about that, but now I think I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to open. And there is no magic threshold that we're going to cross. We're going to continue to learn every day. And if I've got my license and I've got a van full of samples, and I can take payment, that's really what I need, and I'm ready to go. So
love it. I love it. Brett.
Yeah, I got to find the mute button. I've learned that take some pressure off yourself, free some time up for the more important things like the networking. I'm fortunate I hired my office manager this week, and even though she's not like fully on board, like taking little things off my plate to free up that time is important. And I think for me, the big win, I'm doing this to give back to the community largely, and was able to secure an exclusive sponsorship with the Animal Rescue League of Iowa, which is pretty cool for me, as one of our core nonprofits that we're going to support for our business. So we're actually going to sponsor our first event toward the end of April. So it's pretty exciting.
Love it. I love it. Let's see. How about Brigitte Black?
Well, yesterday we had the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We had a corporate sponsored event with David Kirkjian from Master Messaging. And Garrett came and Tom came, and we learned that, for me, my biggest takeaway was in building up these relationships with other contact sphere professionals, realtors, interior designers, and so on, is what's in it for them, is having the conversation and how to convey that. The biggest challenges that they have and how we can help solve them. So I'm really excited because I love networking. Also, real quick, Portia Wallace, I sent you a direct message if you want to check in the chat. Thank you.
Nice.
Got it.
All right,
Thank you so much.
Lisa.
I'm distracted by my husband trying to assemble an IKEA desk right now, so he's listening in as well. I hear a lot of similar things. things about having a little anxiety, things about a little envy that we can't do more ride-alongs. And so some of that has been frustrating for me, and that it's been difficult to do ride-alongs. And I think that that would be extremely helpful. But it's also a work in progress. And I'm an old dog learning new tricks, but I think it'll be okay.
You'll be just right. Don't worry, you'll be just right.
And there he is.
There he is. Let's see, Rocky.
Let's see. My takeaway is just visiting with people again, friends and family. And even though they don't want me to measure their space that day, I still, throw it out on the table, for future possible work. And relearning everything, going back to the things you thought you learned, the notes that you took, having to retake notes because now it makes sense, that type of thing. So just learn. Yeah, that's my takeaway.
Nice. Let's see, Jennifer.
Hello. Big aha was last week when you said, don't get bogged down by every little corner of every little wall, just do the big part. I did that, and it made I was so much faster at measuring. I measured a 2,400 square foot house yesterday, and it took me no time because they wanted the same floor. So I was able to do big areas, and I didn't get bogged down with all that measuring in all the little funny corners. So that was great.
Love it. I love it. Good. Very tactical, but very, very helpful. Good.
Yes.
Let's
very.
see, Nick. Where's Nick? He was here and he disappeared. Let's see. All right. So have I missed anyone? If I have missed you, it was
David,
not on purpose.
David
Hey,
wants.
hey,
David
Arlen,
wants to
can you
talk.
hear me?
Yep. Here we go.
Okay, so my big learning this week was with the tablet, because I got behind after Atlanta because we had some software update issues. But once I got those fixed, and I've been doing the week 2 practice sessions, I've been amazed at I mean, it's just critical to really know the tablet, but it is going to be very helpful, super helpful to get underway with it.
Good. Thank you. Anybody else that I missed? If I missed you, it was not on purpose. It was purely missing you on the list. So Brigitte asked, what's the tip for small corners on the drawing floor plans? The tip is don't worry about all the little tiny details. So make big boxes when you're drawing stuff. If you've got an L-shaped room, you might make that 2 boxes instead of messing around with trying to make an L. If you've got a room that's got a diagonal corner, if it's a small corner, who cares? Just, make it a big square and keep on trucking. So the point is, and if you didn't watch last week's, go back and watch last week's recording, because we sort of talked through some tactical stuff around how do I want to draw this space so that I'm not wasting a ton of time making drawings. Good. All right, so let's take a quick look at the scorecard. We're not going to spend a ton of time here because I want to dive into our material for today. So as of today, everybody should be finished with weeks 1 through 4. I will assign today week 5. Sorry, I'm looking at attendance. Everybody should be through with weeks 1 through 4. Today, I will assign week 5. And if you haven't made it through Salesforce, it's time to make it through Salesforce. So again, if your score shows like 90, I consider that done anyway. There's probably just one video or something that didn't click all the way over. Let me just advance over a little bit to the right and give everybody a chance to see that. Down here, you'll see I've tried to capture how many proposals each one of the franchise owners has written. Those are training proposals for now, although as Spencer proved, a training proposal can actually turn into a real job. And then when I come over here, we've got, remember, if you missed a session, if you'll go back and watch that session and send me the code word at the end, I can give you 75% attendance credit. So you see like Kyle here has a couple of 75s. And that's what that is.
Hey, Arlen, can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
So on the fab, were you, the 3 videos in week, let's see, I think it's 3, where we were having trouble with the uploading the videos. I'm still on, I think, 67%, and I was telling the owner, the franchise owner, John, that we thought that you had fixed that last week.
Yeah, I'm still trying to fix it. There's a little weird something going on in the system.
Okay.
But it will be fixed. That's
Okay.
on me. That's not on you. So don't
Okay,
worry
great.
about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Arlen, folks
Mhm.
can also go online. There are a number of free apps for video compression. And if you run your video through the compression, they'll go right up.
Yep. Perfect. On the ride-alongs, I love these guys. I cannot emphasize enough. All these ride-alongs that people are doing, this is fantastic. You guys are seeing so much more in real life than what we could ever do in a training class. I mean, it's just, that's really where the learning happens. And for the franchise owners, you know, I know some of you are in remote or more remote areas than others, but man, if you've got a franchise owner within a couple-hour drive of you, it is well worth getting in the car and spending a day with somebody, whether it's a franchise owner or one of the great design associates that work for them, and have an opportunity to do some ride-alongs. It is well worth that trip to do it.
Yeah, I'm heading down to Portland, 3 hours south on Sunday, and then I'm going to meet up with Toby Taver down in Vancouver and hang out with him on Monday. Sales meeting. It's going to be awesome.
If you can ride with Tyler, so Toby's got a sales manager named Tyler. If you can ride with Tyler, if you can ride with one of the other DAs that, because Tyler now, I think he's got 3 or 4 DAs that report to him. If you could ride with one of those guys, man, that would be phenomenal. Absolutely well worth the trip.
I heard that guy's like the closer. Closer's his middle name.
Yeah, well, and what's funny, not to go too far down the rabbit hole, is Toby doesn't go out and sell anymore. I mean, he does some commercial work or whatever, but Tyler runs that entire sales part of his business, and he is absolutely the closer. Man, if you could spend a couple of days with Tyler, you would learn so much because you see it in real life. Good stuff. All right, so let's go. So we've looked at our scorecard. I will do just a quick check-in on the week 4 homework if there's any questions that came up out of that. Today, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about vinyl. And we didn't spend a class talking about carpet. We didn't spend a class talking about hardwood or even tile. We haven't done that. But vinyl, particularly luxury vinyl plank, there's so much of it that's in the market. I want to spend a little bit of time addressing some of the inconsistencies in the industry vocabulary. And I want to address, it's not a bug in the tablet, but there's something in the tablet that you really, really need to focus in on when you're doing luxury vinyl plank. And I just want to make sure that we're really clear on that. The bulk of our time we're going to spend in inspired sale, and then we'll look at what next week looks like. So as you went through the Floor U material, you would have gone through LVP, LVT, you would have gone through a bunch of stuff. Any questions that came up from the Floor U material? If not, let me just dive right in here to vinyl. So when you think about luxury vinyl plank, in fact, you know what? I'm going to do this out of order today. I'm going to do it this way. The original vinyl floor was something called sheet vinyl. How many of you know what sheet vinyl is? Yep. Everybody knows what sheet vinyl is, right? It's what your grandmother used to call linoleum. Well, back in the day, there wasn't sheet vinyl. Sheet vinyl is made out of plastic. It's made out of vinyl. Old school linoleum was just that. It was made out of linseed oil. It was actually a natural product, much more natural than vinyls are today. And old school linoleum, it was made out of linseed oil. It had its issues, but it was very natural. Now, a lot of those issues had to do with wear and how long it would last and whatever else. So manufacturers found a cheaper way to skin the cat, so to speak. And so they came up with something called sheet vinyl. Sheet vinyl, if you think about it, was the original waterproof floor. So there's so much advertising, there's so much marketing today in flooring that speaks to waterproof. You know, everybody wants their stuff to be waterproof these days. And that's pure. And you know why people want their stuff to be waterproof? It's absolutely because of the marketing and advertising that's been done. People have been beat to death with advertising that says that your floor needs to be waterproof. So now everybody believes their floor needs to be waterproof. All right, so sheet vinyl was the original waterproof floor. What can you guys think of some advantages of, as a customer, not as a salesperson, but as a customer, can you guys think of some advantages of sheet vinyl?
No seams,
Yeah, no seams.
easy to
Yeah,
clean.
so if the room's small enough, you might not have any seams, right? Sheet vinyl normally comes in a 12-foot wide roll. So if you're doing any space that's less than 12 feet wide, you're doing it without any seams at all. Somebody said it was easy to clean. What else? What else is positive about sheet vinyl?
Quick installation.
Unless
Might
you
be.
need quarter-inch plywood.
Carpet.
It's
Sorry, Dave?
inexpensive.
Unless you need that quarter-inch plywood screwed down like 1,600 times.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that. Tom, you were going to say something?
It's the least available, most affordable hard surface flooring product on the market.
It might be. It might be, depending on how it has to be installed. It very well could be.
I'm just
Well,
talking
in
about
some cases-
just the product itself, though.
Yep. Just
You
the
can
product
install
itself.
it over anything?
Sorry?
I said you can install it over almost any subfloor.
Potentially. There's some limitations there, but as a customer, you know, one of the things that I think is really neat about sheet vinyl is that if you go out and look, there's thousands of images, there's thousands of designs. I mean, you can get sheet vinyl that looks like wood, you can get sheet vinyl that looks like stone, that looks like tile. And especially if you're comparing sheet vinyl to a natural stone, it's a whole lot less expensive to do a sheet vinyl than it is a natural stone floor. You can do a lot of neat things with sheet vinyl that other products, you know, I mean, from a design standpoint, that's a little bit more difficult or certainly a lot more expensive to do with other products. What are the limitations of sheet vinyl? Where does sheet vinyl run into problems?
Tears easily, rips, punctures.
Yep, it might tear, it might rip. You know, somebody puts it in a laundry room and they push their dryer back into place, and before you know it, now you've got a rip in the sheet vinyl. What else?
It doesn't like subfloors. You got to have a nice smooth subfloor for that stuff.
Yeah, you got to have a really, really smooth subfloor for that, right? So this is what Dave was starting to talk about was if I don't have a smooth subfloor, I've got to put down a 1/4-inch plywood. I've got to put down something to make it really, really smooth, right? Yeah. Otherwise, everything that I've got to put the Luan down. Otherwise, every little thing in the subfloor is going to show through everything. I mean, it may not show through on day one, but within a week or two, all of a sudden, every crack in the plywood, every little divot in the concrete, everything, you're going to see everything right through it. What other limitations are there with sheet vinyl or problems with sheet vinyl?
The way it looks.
All right, Lisa, talk to me about the way it looks.
Well, I always see it as something that looks fake to me.
Okay, maybe it looks fake. Okay, good. What else?
It's gonna tear instead of scratch.
It'll tear instead of scratch.
Not very stylish.
Okay. Might be dated in terms of style.
It might be more slippery than something with a texture or beveling.
It might be. Now, I know there's exceptions, okay? And those of you that have a ton of flooring experience, yes, I do understand that there's exceptions, but most of the time, the right way to install this sheet vinyl is going to be to fully glue it down. Yes, there are some sheet vinyls that say that you can perimeter glue and some other things, but for the purpose of where we are today, 90% or more of the time, the right way to install this is going to be to fully glue it down, right? So if I'm fully gluing it down, the subfloor has got to be 100% flat. So if it's a concrete subfloor, you can glue it directly to the concrete, but the concrete has to be flat, which means you might be putting self-leveling compound down. Your installer might be grinding humps out of the concrete in order to get it flat. There's a lot of work that happens in order to make this stuff look good. And if you're on a plywood or an OSB subfloor, then I'm going to have to put down that 1/4 inch Luan, 1/4 inch underlayment to make sure that I have a really, really smooth surface. Could I put, now remember I said that we're going to fully glue it down. So could I put this on particle board?
No.
No, I can't. I can't. Well, could I put the 1/4 inch plywood on the particle board and then glue it to the 1/4 inch plywood?
Yes, yes, you can.
No, I can't. Why can't I? Because I can't
Particle
staple
board
to
will
the
break
particle
up.
board. I can't staple to the particle board. So how am I going to attach the 1/4 inch plywood to the particle board if the, I can't glue it to the particle board, I can't staple it to the particle board, and I can't just have these 1/4 inch sheets of plywood floating around. I mean, they've got to be secured to the floor. So I cannot put sheet vinyl on particle board. And I know there's exceptions, and sometimes there's exceptions that are industry acceptable, and sometimes there's exceptions that really never should have been done. But for again, I'm talking 90% of the time, you're not going to be able to put sheet vinyl over a particle board floor. It just isn't going to work. So there's limitations here. All right. So now if I took sheet vinyl, and I'm oversimplifying this, but if I took sheet vinyl and instead of leaving it in a big fat roll like this, maybe instead what I did is I cut it into strips. So let's go back and look at a luxury vinyl plank. Well, a luxury vinyl plank, the construction is different, but from a visual standpoint, it kind of looks like all they did was take sheet vinyl and cut it into strips. There's nothing special about luxury vinyl plank. A lot of times there will be a reinforced PVC core. You've got your design layer. You've got some sort of protectant film that goes over the design layer. But the original luxury vinyl plank, and today, even your glue down luxury vinyl planks, they're floppy, right? They're floppy. They're just as floppy as sheet vinyl. And so your original luxury vinyl planks, they're floppy. So if they're floppy, if I'm going to glue it down and it's floppy, what does that tell me about the subfloor?
Has to be strong.
Yeah, it is the same limitations as sheet vinyl. It is exactly the same limitations as sheet vinyl. So that means it has to be perfectly flat. If it's concrete, I'm going to have to grind or put in self-leveling. If it's a plywood subfloor, I'm probably putting down the 1/4 inch plywood, the 1/4 inch underlayment. Okay, but that's the glue down version. So the industry, and this goes back to the 90s, there was a company called US Floors. It's a company that doesn't exist anymore. US Floors created something called Cortec. Now, Cortec still exists. Shaw bought out that part of US Floors, and so the name Cortec still exists. Cortec was the original, they were the original luxury vinyl plank in a rigid form. So everything before that was glue down. And then all of a sudden, Cortec came out with this stuff, and it was rigid. It was hard. And it was, the original ones had a cork backing. Now today you'll find luxury vinyl planks that have a rubber backing, synthetic rubber backing, or cork, or some other type of backing. But they originally came out with something called a WPC vinyl. Now, depending on who you're reading, depending on who you're talking to, some people will tell you that the W in WPC stands for wood polymer core, because the original luxury vinyl plank boards that US Floors made years and years ago, the original ones actually had a wood composite. It was a wood and plastic mixed together for that center section. Today, nobody uses wood anymore, but the W is sort of stuck there. And so that W, you might say, stands for waterproof. Okay, whatever. I call it a whatever polymer core. But it's just, it looks like, when you look at it from the side, it looks like yellow birthday cake. It has almost a foamed look to it. It has little air bubbles in it. Some people will call a rigid luxury vinyl plank, they'll call it enhanced vinyl plank or rigid luxury vinyl plank. Either one of those is acceptable. So this is where, I would apologize to the industry, but I can't really apologize for an entire industry. It's just that you're going to hear people say things that, hey, you know what? WPC, it might be wood, it might be waterproof, it might be whatever. It's okay. It's a WPC vinyl. It looks like yellow birthday cake. You'll hear some people talk about rigid luxury vinyl or maybe an enhanced luxury vinyl. The reality is that those are synonyms for one another. They both mean the same thing, okay? This rigid plank, now with this being a rigid plank, Now, am I worried about having a subfloor that's not 100% perfect?
Yes.
No.
It doesn't have to be 100% perfect anymore. So if I have, like, I'm looking at a plywood subfloor and there's a knot in the subfloor, I can go right over the knot. I'm not worried about it. I don't have to make that perfect. If I'm on a concrete slab and there's like a little divot in the concrete, I'm not talking about a massive expanse. Let's say I'm on a concrete slab and there's just a crack in the concrete. I can go over that crack and I don't have to worry about filling it. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I can just go over it, right? So with a rigid core, it's rigid enough that I do not need that 1/4-inch plywood. Okay. So I want to be able to put this in your mind, like really, really clear. If I'm gluing it down, in other words, if it's a floppy luxury vinyl plank, or if it's a sheet vinyl, if I'm gluing it down, I have to use a 1/4-inch plywood, or I have to make sure that it's 100% flat, right? Everything's got to be perfect. But if it's a rigid luxury vinyl plank, if it's rigid, I don't necessarily need all that extra work. Now, it doesn't mean there won't be some work. There still might be some, but it's not nearly the same level of perfection that what I need with a glue down. Does that make sense? Are there debates,
Yeah,
questions
the
about
floor
that?
has to be level though, right? I mean, at least.
It has to be flat. It has to be flat, right? It has to be flat. But like, I mean, I look at a piece of plywood that has a knot in it. I'm not worried about the knot, right? If I was gluing down, I would be worried about the knot, because now when I glue down where that knot is, you're going to see the knot, right? But the floor still needs to be flat.
Hey, Arlen.
Yes.
One of the things that my franchisee does that I think is really smart, with a click together system, if you have too much undulation, that click lock might fail over a certain period. So what we do to be safe, to protect our margins. So if it's a 400 square foot job, we put in basic floor prep, but we only put in 100 yards because we know we don't need that much product. So that's just a way to always cover your butt in case they do need it. But I've always been taught that you need, I think it's within a 1/8 of an inch, maybe it's a 16th, but too much floor variation can unlock those locks.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. What I'm trying to, I'm going somewhere with this, but I 100% agree with you. The floor still has to be flat, right? It still has to be flat. But I look at a standard piece of plywood that has a knot in it or that has a crack in it or something. I'm not worried about those things because I know that the floor is gonna expand that little tiny gap. It's not a big gap. But you're right. If there's undulations in the floor, it still needs to be made flat. All right. Then there's another type called an SPC, or stone polymer composite. Okay. Well, the difference when I look at these, this guy looks like yellow birthday cake, and this guy looks like it's a great piece of stone.
Text my other customers over here.
And the thing about this is it's another type of rigid luxury vinyl plank. And just like the other rigid or enhanced luxury vinyl plank, I'm not worried about the little imperfections in a piece of plywood. Okay. Now, stone polymer composite is more dense. It is a much more dense product. So when I put these two side by side and I think, okay, SPC, most of the time, and yes, there's exceptions, but most of the time SPC is a little cheaper than WPC, but they're both going to give you a waterproof floor. They're both going to be fairly straightforward to install. The WPC is a little less dense. As a result, it might feel a little better underfoot over a long period of time. On the other hand, an SPC, because it is more dense, might be better for heavy furniture, right? If I go into a house where there's a big pool table or there's something, yeah, I might be pulling an SPC out instead of a WPC. Okay. Now, you don't need to be able to recite all this to a customer. As a matter of fact, if you tried to recite all this to the customer, it's way too much. I want you to be able to know this so that you walk into a home and you see a really, really heavy piece of furniture and you're like, you know what, I think an SPC is going to be better here. And then those are the only boards you pull into the house for the customer to look at. On the other hand, you walk in and the customer says, yeah, I want a new floor in my kitchen. And the thing that I really love to do, I love cooking, I love baking. So now bells go off in my head. This is somebody that's going to stand on this floor a lot. I might pick a WPC because it's gonna be over time, it's gonna be softer underfoot. Okay.
Can
Question
you
on
add
that.
heating under? Sorry, I was going to ask if you can add heating elements under the vinyl.
Well, yeah, you can do a heated floor under these. For those, you would absolutely want to look at the manufacturer's installation specs and make sure that you're doing it the right way. But yes, most of these you absolutely can do over a heated floor.
I noticed that you have that as a tie for moisture resistance.
Mhm.
I was under the impression that there were still maybe some of the, I guess they would be the cheaper WPC products that have an inner layer that would be susceptible to expansion or damage with water.
No, well, if you get into, you can find inexpensive WPCs and inexpensive SPCs that might be susceptible to water. So I don't consider that a difference between SPC versus WPC. I consider that a difference between a good quality and maybe a lesser than good quality.
Okay.
Any other questions here?
Yeah, Arlen, I have one. So resilient flooring seems to be such a broad term. Are these are vinyl, right? So are these considered within that resilient flooring category?
They are. So if I did this, the downside of being here instead of where I've got my whiteboard, but that's okay. We'll do it this way. I could create a flow chart that said at the very, very top, resilient floor. And then let's say my first bullet might be, just to get it out of the way, sheet vinyl. Vinyl. All right, so that might be my first bullet, would be sheet vinyl, because sheet vinyl is a resilient floor. It just happens to be a glue down. And then it might be that my next bullet might be a luxury vinyl. Come on, fingers. And then if I take my luxury vinyl plank, I might split that up between what I'm going to call floppy glue down versus a rigid, or you might call it enhanced. And then under rigid, I might have a category for WPC, I might have a category for SPC, and somebody's always coming up with something new, right? So right now you've got two boards in the van that are mineral core. And that's just another type of rigid luxury vinyl plank, okay? So when I look at that, if I were to create sort of a flow chart or an outline, resilient floor, sheet vinyl. Now, some of these sheet vinyls might be truly vinyl. So let's do this. I might come up here and say, I actually have a sheet vinyl that's made of vinyl, or there's something called marmoleum, which is a more natural. So this is getting back more to the roots of a loose floor. Let's see, luxury vinyl plank. What am I missing, guys? Luxury vinyl, floppy, rigid, WPC, SPC, mineral core. This is sort of how I would lay that out. Does that make sense?
Loose lay is the only one I see.
Yeah, right. So you got a floppy glue down, but then there's also something called a loose lay, and there's not many of these out there. Not loose. Come on. Spelling counts. There's not many loose lays out there. There are some, but there's not many loose lays out there. And there's actually some that are like peel and stick, right? So floppy glue down type, you might have a loose lay. Sometimes that glue down is one that you actually have to spread glue. There's some that are like a peel and stick. Again, not many, and the peel and stick versions tend to be really, really inexpensive and lower quality versions.
And Arlen, this would be true for tile, luxury tile or rigid tile.
Yep. So resilient floor. So luxury vinyl plank. The word plank should make you think of wood. If we do a luxury vinyl tile, it should make you think of something that looks like stone or tile, right? So luxury vinyl plank, this is what people will typically call LVT. Luxury vinyl tile is what people will typically call LVT. but all the same things apply. So you might have a luxury vinyl tile that's peel and stick, or you might have a luxury vinyl tile that's a WPC luxury vinyl tile or an SPC luxury vinyl tile. The tile versus plank is really the way that it looks. But I have to say this, when you talk to your customer, see right now, just with this one sheet, you know more than 99% of the population in America right now, okay? So you're gonna have customers that ask you for, I want some of that LVT. And you go out and figure, okay, well, I'm gonna bring this beautiful marble looking tile because they said LVT, and they want something that looks like oak, right? Because people just don't, unless you're in the industry, the terminology doesn't mean as much to you, right? So they just want something. You'll have people that ask you for laminate, but they really are looking at luxury vinyl plank. You'll have people that are asking you for hardwood. No, I want that waterproof hardwood. And you're going, my God, waterproof hardwood, what are you talking about? Oh, it's this luxury vinyl plank stuff because it looks like hardwood, right? So you've got to be able to, part of this is being able to translate what the customer's saying, the words that they're saying, into understanding what it is that they're really looking for, because the customer doesn't necessarily understand or know the language. And frankly, the flooring industry doesn't help because the flooring industry continues to confuse the language.
So LVP and LVT is always rigid.
Nope. They could be floppy. They could be glue down. If it's helpful, I'll send this sheet out to you guys as well today. Just so you've got this for reference.
Arlen,
All
I would even, some of the SPCs are like a semi-rigid product. They have like quite a good bit of give to them. Some of the SPCs, the WPCs being a thicker product, not so much, but they're definitely a rigid product. But the SP definitely are semi-rigid in some instances.
It depends on what it is. It absolutely depends on what it is. Okay, so looking at our,
Ask a quick question before you leave that. So am I right that the general rule is if it's floppy, it has to be glued down and it has to have the 1/4 inch perfectly, the new 1/4 inch plywood underneath it?
That is correct.
But if it's rigid, it shouldn't, theoretically, it should almost never need the 1/4 inch plywood.
That is correct. Yep, okay. That is correct. Okay. And all right, so let me do this. We're going to jump out of here for just a second. I wanted to show you this anyway, but we'll go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do it now while we're thinking along these lines. So I'm going to jump over to my tablet for just a second, okay? And got to stop this screen share first. I want to share my tablet with you for a moment. And you don't feel like you have to follow along here. I'm going to make this really, really fast. How long is this going to take?
Updates.
Well, good. It's a quick update. Good. I'm actually thankful for this. You guys don't know, it used to be that every time an update came out, you had to go in and uninstall everything and reinstall everything, and it was a horrible pain. This is much easier and much faster. So I'm thankful for it. All right, so let's take a look now. I'm going to hit the plus button and just create a training task. And again, I'm going to move really fast, so you probably aren't going to have time to follow me, but that's okay. I'm just going to create a simple room. And we're going to call it whatever we call it. It's a bedroom, good enough. I'm not even going to bother with doors or anything. I'm just making it really, really quick, really, really simple. Space info. Now, right here, let's assume for a moment that we're going to remove carpet. That's okay. We've got a standard furniture move and the subfloor is plywood. So that's good. And I'm going to hit the little dollar sign at the bottom right, so that we can come in here where we're going to create our first option. Now I'm going to slow down a second. So let's select the room and I hit set install info. And the product type, because this is what we're talking about today, I'm going to pick luxury vinyl. Luxury vinyl. My install type. So when I click on install type, there are six things that are here. If I could dream, I have a dream, and if I could dream, I would rearrange these in a different order. But this is the order that they're in. So I want you to read these, and I want you to know what each one of these things means. These are in pairs, but the pairs are not together. These are in pairs. So there's two that are at the top: floated vinyl installation and floated pattern vinyl tile plank installation. I want you to think of those two as being the same, or not the same, but very, very similar. So floated vinyl, floated pattern, what do you think that means?
By
You can
pattern,
do
are you
like a
talking like a herringbone pattern?
Yeah.
All right. So with a floated luxury vinyl plank, it is almost impossible to do a herringbone pattern. And the reason that I say that is because the side locking mechanism is different than the edge locking mechanism. The long side is different than the edge.
Correct.
So it's not like you can just turn it in a different direction and lock it together. There are a handful, and it's a very, very small number. And as a matter of fact, I don't think there's any in the van that do this. There's a small number of luxury vinyl planks that are on the market that you could actually float a herringbone. You're probably never going to run into it, okay? Floated pattern, in this case, maybe I go into a room and the customer wants it laid out on a diagonal for whatever reason, right? They don't want it to be left to right or front to back. They want it at a 45-degree angle across the room. Fine, now I can call that a pattern, but it's floated. There's no glue. This is a click lock floor and I'm floating it. All right, the next two that I want to put together, straight vinyl tile plank installation, which is the third one down, and the number 6 at the bottom, pattern vinyl tile plank installation. Okay, I want to put those two together, straight and pattern. So if you're looking at my screen, it's the third one and the 6th one. So what is straight and pattern? What do those two represent?
The way the floor's laid.
And how are they laid?
The direction of the floor.
So these two are glue down.
Oh.
These two are glue down. So the first two are floated. Okay, there's no glue. This is a rigid luxury vinyl plank. They're floated. The straight vinyl tile plank installation and the pattern vinyl tile plank installation, both of those are glue down. So when you pick one of those, the tablet is going to automatically assume that you need adhesive and now you're gluing something down. Okay, so now the pattern one at the bottom, if I just highlight the pattern one at the bottom means that yes, now I'm going to do something like a herringbone or something, because with a glue down version, I can do a lot more interesting things, right? I'm not worried about locking mechanisms. I can put things on ends. I can do chevrons, patterns. I can do all sorts of neat things with it. Okay. But the third item down that says straight vinyl tile plank installation, that means glue down. The one at the very bottom that says pattern vinyl tile installation, that's also glue down, but now we're gluing it down in pattern.
Hey, Arlen, when we select those in a tablet, is it automatically taking adhesive like from the labor price list and including that, or is that something we manually have to select?
It is automatically putting the adhesive in there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right. Now the third pair is the grouted pattern vinyl tile plank installation and the grouted vinyl tile plank installation. Okay, those two that say grout. What could those possibly mean?
There's space filled in with grout to make it look more like natural wood.
Well, to make it more like, typically this is going to be a tile or stone look. Typically it's going to be a tile or stone look. So the grouted is just like if you grout tile, okay? In this case, though, if I pick a grouted vinyl tile plank installation, I am going to glue down a luxury vinyl tile, and I'm going to glue it down with a little bit of space in between so that I can put grout in between. All right, so it is a luxury vinyl tile that has been grouted to make it look even more like tile, okay? Now, I go through a lot of detail here. And again, the reason I'm going through this level of detail is because this one screen tends to trip people up more than anything else does. If I pick floated luxury vinyl tile, okay, then the pattern type right below it, straight, other diagonal, I'm just doing straight. What is the next? So I've got luxury vinyl, floated vinyl tile plank installation, straight pattern. What is my next thing that I'm choosing here?
You're gonna clear out that quarter inch
plywood.
Right, that 1/4 inch plywood, if I'm floating a luxury vinyl plank, I don't need the 1/4 inch plywood. I don't need it, okay? By default, the tablet puts it in there. Why does the tablet put it in there? The tablet was designed to be able to keep you safe. It's not necessarily designed to make you the most price competitive that you could be. So the tablet automatically puts in for you, hey, just to keep it safe, because I don't know, you might need it, we're going to add this 1/4 inch plywood. It's up to you to look at that and say, wait a minute, I see the subfloor. I know I'm not going to need 1/4 inch plywood. I'm going to be fine without it. I've got a rigid luxury vinyl plank. It's up to you to be able to remove that. Now I'm going to leave it in for just a second, and I'm going to hit the little enter button. Let's just pick a product, luxury vinyl, and I'm going to just pick a PG3. That's all good. And now let's complete this and let's take a look. So this is a $4,000 proposal. And out of that $4,000, I've got $654 worth of 1/4 inch plywood, and I've got $357 worth of install 1/4 inch plywood. So out of this $4,000 proposal, I've got about $1,000 tied up in 1/4 inch plywood. Okay. So this is why I spend this much time. Somebody on this call in about 3 weeks is going to call me and fuss at me because, oh my gosh, our prices are so high. I quoted the exact same thing that somebody else did. They even showed me a picture of it. It was the exact same plank. I know it was the same plank, and my price was $4,000 and theirs was $3,000. And 9 times out of 10, I'm going to look and I'm going to see that there's 1/4 inch plywood still sitting in your proposal, and that's where that extra $1,000 is. Okay. Now, some people will argue, well, shouldn't the tablet take that out? Well, this is a philosophical question because for me personally, I'd rather that it be in there and then I'm smart enough to take it out when I know that I don't need it, rather than the tablet never proposes it. And now all of a sudden I walk into a space where, oh crap, I really should have had this underlayment underneath here. And now we're screwed because I got to go, I'm coming off the hip for $1,000 that I should have had in the quote. So the tablet was designed to keep you safe, but you also have to be smart enough to use the tool. It's like a calculator. The calculator will do some math, but you have to push the right buttons. Questions on this?
Hey, Arlen, David, is there any way that the FCI IT team could add the word glue down behind those 2 options that involve glue down vinyl?
That's on the list.
Or separate them completely. So you've got one category for your planks and tiles and one category for your sheet vinyl glue down.
That's on the list. One of the big projects that the tech task force is working on this year is going back through estimating rules, and this whole scheme around the luxury vinyl is that's a big topic on the list. So let me click on this one more time because I think it was Brett that asked it. So let's set the install info, and this time I'm still going to pick luxury vinyl, but this time I'm going to pick a glue down. So let's do straight vinyl tile because I'm gluing it down straight. And you know what? I probably do need the 1/4 inch plywood. So I'm going to leave that in there. And let's just see what happens. I want the glue down version. And now when I look at this, I've got my straight vinyl tile, and there is my vinyl plank adhesive. So, yep, it pulled that adhesive in. Bingo, bango, there we go.
So Arlen, is it gluing down that 1/4 inch plywood to say, like if it's on a concrete slab, or you would never do that? You would never put the 1/4 inch on a concrete slab.
You can never, I'm gonna make the whole class raise your right hand and swear, promise after me. I promise I will never put plastic on top of wood, on top of concrete.
Okay.
I will never create that situation.
So they get on
Good
plastic.
know.
All right, so you're taking a plastic floor and putting it over wood, whether that's somebody, years ago, somebody glued down this engineered hardwood floor. Can I just put a luxury vinyl plank on top of it? Absolutely not, because moisture comes up through the concrete. Today, it gets into the hardwood, but it has a chance to air itself out. You put a plastic floor on top of it, and now the moisture gets stuck in the wood, and it will rot within a couple of years. Now you're going back to rip all that stuff out, and you've got a mold problem to deal with.
Okay.
Ethan, you got your hand up patiently.
Plywood is only if you're laying down like another plywood.
He was taking the oath, Arlen.
Yeah, that's my bad. I was taking the oath. Sorry.
Gotcha. Okay.
Symbolically raised his hand. I love it.
Involuntarily. All right. I'll have him lower his hand when he's ready. All right. So let's just, by comparison, now let's go back. I need to fix this one. Let's set the install. Nope. That's not what I want to do. Go to complete option. And now I'm just going to hit the little pencil button, and I'm going to delete that 1/4 inch plywood.
It's generally going to be much more.
And I'm going to delete that guy and hit the check mark so that it takes that change. And so you'll see that for the same room, and both of them are PG3s, I can do the floated rigid luxury vinyl plank a lot cheaper than I can the glue down. And the difference is that $1,000 worth of 1/4 inch plywood. The material itself may be roughly the same price. The glue down version might even be a little cheaper. But typically, if you're doing a glue down and you've got to deal with 1/4 inch plywood, it adds 20 or 25% to the cost of the project. That's why sheet vinyl, as inexpensive as sheet vinyl might be as a product, the project cost ends up being more expensive because you've got to deal with this, the installation of this extra layer. All right, questions about what the tablet's doing? Thank you for following me with that, so that hopefully we don't deal with that in the field. All right, so where are we? We have talked through setup calls. We've talked through the warm-up. We've talked about going into a customer's home and inspecting the home with them and doing an inspection video, measuring the job. Last week, we talked about the company story and the installation presentation. Today, I want to talk a little bit about what does it mean to present product in the home, okay? And very quickly, this is a 5-minute deal, talk about the pre-close. So what is our ultimate goal when we're showing product in the home? What is our ultimate goal?
You want the customer to fall in love with what their floor is going to look like.
Bingo. I want the customer to fall in love with what we're showing. I want them to fall in love with it. Is it good enough for the customer to say, yeah, that'll do? No, it really isn't. Or that's close enough. No, that's not it either. Okay. I really want to find a product that the customer falls in love with. Now, those of you that have done a ton of ride-alongs, I want your help here. How are you, or how is somebody that you've ridden with, how are you guys showing product in the home that really has an impact on your customer? I mean, it's one thing to bring in a product board and say, yeah, here's a board, pick a color. I mean, that's one way to do it, probably not terribly effective. What are some techniques? What are some things that you guys have seen in the field that really, really amp up that product presentation in the home?
Have them touch and feel it and walk on it.
Good. Touch, feel it, walk on it. What else?
Arlen, we
Put them
one thing that Beth
against
does.
the walls, Arlen. That kind of works out well. at least for our customers, when they see whether it's carpet or the vinyl, you put them against the walls, kind of see their furniture in their paint walls. That kind of makes it for them.
I love it.
The room visualizer is our best tool, always, because the mom and pops don't have it, and nor do the chuck on the trucks. But when you take a picture and show them what that floor will look like once installed, that's where you get the love.
I love it. Good. Cody, you were chiming in.
I was just gonna say one thing that I've found that's really successful is you pull out the product board and you tell them, I chose this product for you because XYZ. You give them reasons why you pulled out this specific product, whether it's colors you're trying to match, whether it's, specific advantages and benefits, features, advantages, benefits, the fab that the product may have, or you just are really trying to listen to what the customer needs. Not only do you want them to love it, but you are also trying to find like a solution, because most people, there's something that they dislike about the floor that they currently have, or there's something wrong with it. So yeah, they need to love the new product, but it also needs to help solve like a problem that they are having.
I love it. I love it. What else are you guys seeing?
I like to make sure that, let's say they're doing LVP in 3 rooms. I want them to take that LVP sample into each of those rooms. I'm going to make them do that. If they're worried about if it's too dark or too light, I take them in a small area like a hallway and say, okay, how's this look now? Does this still work for you? Are you still as excited? Just really asking those questions and walking them through where it's going to go, so they truly understand, yes, this is the floor I want.
Good, good. What else are you guys seeing? What are the little techniques and tricks?
Arlen, I've found that just kind of checking in with their expressions as I'm showing products and watching their responses. And if I see something that, they get excited. I had a client that, no, nothing. And then his face just lit up on one product. So then I hone in there, focus with that, and then kind of elaborate a little more there, or get them to be more excited. And then, like we've said in other training classes, if they're excited on one product, I stop.
Yep, I love it.
I agree with that, Arlen. I just want to add, sometimes I play a game where I try to see what they really like, and then I'll watch the reaction, and I always try to get them to buy the first thing they like. It's usually what they'll go with. And sometimes I'll even show them things that I don't think they'll like, and that helps too. Just putting an oddball in and just saying, well, why don't you look at this? And usually what it does, it leads them right back to the first one they liked.
Good. Good. Other tricks. All right, so I'll show you the format that I like. Obviously not mandatory. This is a format that I like, okay? And I think it's a very effective format. So I'm gonna challenge you guys as you're presenting product to your customer to start with, very similar to what Cody said, start with what I call my I chose statement. I chose this product for you because you said this. Okay, and it's really important that I get the you said part in there, right? So, I chose this product for you because you said that you have a dog that has accidents and that's what you're solving for. I chose a product for you because I chose this product for you because you said you absolutely hate the way you can see footprints in the carpet after you vacuum. Whatever, right? Whatever it is. I chose this product for you because you said you were tired of looking at the wrinkles in the carpet. So what I'm doing is I'm telling the customer, first of all, that I heard exactly what it was that your issue was, okay? It is important for the customer to recognize that you actually listen to them. So many people don't listen anymore. So I go into a customer's house and the customer tells me that they love their house, a brand new house, but my gosh, these hardwood floors are so scratched up. We've got to do something for this. I chose this product for you because you said that you were concerned about the scratches in the hardwood floor. It's that simple, right? I don't have to go through this is 10 seconds worth of a presentation, right? But it's so important if you'll challenge yourself, it doesn't have to be word for word, right? I want you to use what works and don't use what doesn't work. But I find that this works so well because in a very, very short period of time, it helps me communicate to the customer, I heard you, and now I have a solution for what you said. So I chose this product for you because you said that you were concerned about the water damage that you're seeing on your hardwood floor, where you overwater the plants and there's water damage underneath on the hardwood floors. So I picked this product for you because this is a 100% waterproof floor. Okay, so that's how I'm going to start this. I'm going to say, I chose this for you because you said. And you'll notice, now I've got demo grayed out because we don't go through demos in this class. We'll do that in a different class. But then I want to go into the features, advantages, and benefits. But I'm not going to cover the customer with so many features that it's too much, right? I don't really care. Like this board in particular, I know it's hard to see on Zoom. This has like this pillow beveled edge, right? It's a really nice looking edge here. But if the customer said their concern was overwatering of plants, am I even going to talk about a pillow beveled edge? No, that's not what's important to them. I'm going to talk about what's important to them. They said that the issue was that they were concerned about overwatering plants. I chose this product for you because you were concerned about the impact of overwatering plants on your floors. I picked this for you because this is a 100% waterproof floor. Done. Now I've given them all the fab information they need. Yes, does this board have some other fabs on it? Absolutely. If I look at the bottom of this board, there's all sorts of information down here, right? But I'm not gonna, it's what I call fruit salad, right? You got some grapes and some strawberries and you got all kinds of stuff in this fab salad. It doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters and nobody's gonna hear all that stuff. What are they gonna hear? They're gonna hear what speaks to their issue, okay? So what do? I'm gonna simply start with an I chose statement. I chose this product for you because you said this, all right? This is how I'm answering that issue. Now let's make this more interactive. How does this feel to you? So I pull the board, I've got the board up, touch it, feel it. How does this feel to you? How does this look to you? How is the visual, right? And when it comes to color, yes, we've got a ton of colors on the back, right? I want to show you a little trick, and this is hard to do on Zoom, but I'd love to take credit for this. This is not my trick. I stole this from somebody else, but I will continue to use it. I love these little black L's. All right, you go to the Hobby Lobby or you go to Amazon and you get, this is nothing more than like an 8x10 picture photo mat paper that I've cut into 2 L's, right? This is cheap, right? This is really, really cheap. Okay, so now what do I do with it? When I lay this board on the floor so that the customer can see, I'm going to take these L's. Now this is hard to do upside down and backwards and behind the board. I'm going to take these L's and I'm going to frame out the specific color that they're looking at. And I'm going to lay it down on the floor so that they can see just that color. Yeah, there was a question.
I know.
Craig, you muted yourself, buddy.
I learned that trick. I just want to follow up with you. I did see that trick once with a designer that I worked for, and she used to just take plain piece of paper and cover up, isolate her color. And also another thing she did was she would bring paint swatches, which is I do too. It's getting into a little too much, but you might get that customer once in a while that likes that kind of extra touch. So I just wanted to reiterate.
100%. Now, I will tell you, Craig, so, and for everybody, the reason that I went with these, I'm not a color expert. I'll never pretend to be a color expert, but there is a franchisee in the Philadelphia area. His name is Dan Coughlin. Dan came from, the industry that he came from was very color sensitive, right? So he did color inks and that sort of thing. All right, so this is what Dan taught me. When you lay white paper down on the sample boards, white reflects all the light back into your eyes. And so when you're looking at that white paper and it bounces the white back into your eyes, it actually distorts the way that you see the color slightly, not big time, but slightly. If you use black, the black absorbs all the light. And so you get the visual image, the customer gets a better picture of exactly what that color is going to look like. So that's why I check, because I used to do paper. and I changed from paper and went to black L's. And I mean, it's amazing because you can take these, you can size them however you want to. You can even do the eyeglasses trick, better number one, better number two, better number one, better number two, and help your customer figure out exactly which one is the right one for them. So that's the way that I'm going to help customers pick out the color. And yes, we're going to take it all around the room. We're going to take it everywhere so that people can see it in different spaces against different furniture. I absolutely love being able to pick up the board and carry it around the room for people. So I chose this product because you said, this is how it meets that need. How does this feel to you? How does this look to you? And then we're going to pick a color out, right? And then in terms of confirmation, I'm simply going to the customer says, oh yes, this is the one, this is the one, this is the one. The confirmation is very simple. I'm just going to look at them and say, so is this the one you love? Okay, you word that however you want to, but I want confirmation from the customer that yes, this is the one, that's it. We have nailed it, that's the one. Then we get into the pre-close. Now the pre-close statement, the pre-close question and commitment, this is a very, very short step in the sales process. It is a pivotal point because everything that we have done up until now, everything that we have done has had nothing to do with price. At no point have we talked about cost. At no point have we talked about price. When I talked about the difference between an LVP and a sheet vinyl or whatever else, I never once talked about, well, this is a cheaper option than that. Has nothing that we have done up until this point has had anything to do with price. What are the three things that we've tried to nail so far? We've tried to nail that I'm the right person to work with, that this is the right company to work with, and now we have found a love for the product. Okay, so step 7. It's a simple question. Other than price or payment, would there be any reason that we couldn't get your job started today? Now, have they seen my price? No, they've not seen my price. I could be $10,000 higher or $4,000 lower than the last person they talked to. They have no idea what the price is. This question helps me set up how have I done up until this point? And 2, what is my close going to look like? Okay, so I want to go back for just a second. I want to go all the way back to our map. The first part of this, hopefully we've shown the customer that we're the right person to work with. We've made a great connection with them in the setup call and the warm up. We've set ourselves up as an expert. This first stage should all be about, yep, I'm the right person to work with. And now the company story and the installation presentation, this is all about that, yes, we are the right company to work with. And now we've done the product presentation, and now the customer has fallen in love with the product. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to show them a price, but just before we show them the price, hey, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? Now, how could the customer answer that question?
I'm just getting quotes.
Yep. So Tom says, I'm just getting quotes. Okay. What does that tell me? If the customer says, I'm just getting quotes, what does that tell me?
They're not convinced you're just it.
That's right. I haven't convinced them of 1, 2, or 3. Right? Now, it's going to be really, really hard at this point for me to go back and do a warm-up again. So I can't do that. I'm not going to be able to go back and redo the company story. It might be that I could ask them, well, is this not exactly the product? No, that's absolutely the product. But this step 7, this pre-close question, this helps me diagnose 2 things. 1, what is this close about to look like? And 2, what did I do in the first stages, and where, it's a self-reflection question for me to understand, how do I need to get better? See, I would absolutely love it if I could just be straightforward with the customer and say, hey, look, I know that people buy based on person, based on company, and based on the product. I just want to know if I've convinced you that we are the right for those, that we got those 3 right before I show you the price. But I can't really ask the question that way. So I'm simply going to ask the question, other than price or payment, I'm going to leave it open-ended. Other than price or payment, would there be any reason that we couldn't get your job started today?
Hey, Arlen, I think
Yeah.
for stage 7 to be truly effective, the importance of tie downs can't be underestimated. So when I finish the company story, you have to ask, does this sound like the company you can trust to do this project professionally? Most cases, you get a yes. Then when you present the product, is this the product you love? So in step 7, you tie those down and you bring them back. So let's just review. You said you really feel very confident about the company, and I assume that means me too, because I'll be your general contractor, your one point of contact. You said you love the product. So other than price or payment, is there any reason why we couldn't get started now? It's kind of like if you don't say it, it doesn't exist. And people just have to be reminded constantly.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Other questions around the pre-close?
Arlen, I have a question real quick. So a couple instances where have had customers, say everything's great, we love the product. We like you guys are great. We think that what your whole process is the right process, but there is just, we are not doing our due diligence if we don't get these other estimates, they're just that kind of people where they feel like they're going to do themselves a disservice if they don't get these other, just like, no matter what you say, they said they like you and they like what you have too, but what do you do kind of in those instances?
Okay. So, Cody, if you'll hang on to that till next week, I am gonna deal with that specifically next week. Okay, but hold on to that question. Don't let me forget it. Okay, because we are going to cover that, right? What's another way that the customer could answer this question? Other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today?
Have to talk to my spouse.
Yeah.
All right. So I need to talk to my spouse. So Aaron, I need to talk to my spouse. What step did we miss?
Actually, that would go back to the setup. Making sure
go
that
back to the setup call, right? Because I should have done a better job in the setup call of making sure that both people were going to be there. All right. See how effective this step 7 is already? All right. So how else could somebody answer this question? Other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today?
Yeah, I
We
just
actually
need time
had
to
that
think
this
about it.
morning. Sorry.
All right. Let's see. Beto, what was that?
Yeah, so we had an appointment this morning, and so we went through the whole process, and they were very happy with the product. And so when Jenny asked a question, the lady said, "Well, we're having a couple of things going at the same time, so we wanted to get painted first, so floors can go right after." And
Okay.
but there were.
Okay. All right. So now what you're talking about is scheduling, right? That has nothing to do with making a decision. That's scheduling, right?
For sure, that's a scheduling. Yeah.
It's a scheduling issue. Good. Okay. I mean, what I'm expecting a customer to say, if I've done a really good job up until this point, if I've really nailed up until this point, what I'm expecting the customers to say here, other than price or payment, would there be any reason we couldn't get your job started today? I'm expecting the customer to say, no, it really just comes down to price. That's what I'm expecting. Okay. If I'm getting other things, and I know from time to time I'll get other things, but if I'm getting other things like, well, I still want to see some other estimates. Okay. They haven't seen my estimate yet. So why are we talking about estimates? Well, we're talking about estimates because normally, okay, there are some, I worked for the government for 82 years and I don't make any decisions without 3 quotes. Okay, so I guess what you do is you go to McDonald's, you go to Burger King, and then Wendy's, and you compare the 3 quotes before you buy a sandwich. I don't think so, but okay, I'll take your word for it. All right, so we're going to go through the pre-close, and I'm expecting the customer to say, no, it just comes down to price. Okay, that's what I'm expecting. But if it's something different, we'll deal with something different. Now, when I get that, I'm going to give somebody what I call my commitment statement. And I want you to reword this commitment statement because I want this to sound like you. This is not a word for word. I just want you to make a commitment statement that promises the customer that you're going to do everything in your power to not let price or payment stand in the way of them getting the floors that they love and deserve. But this has to be your words, okay? So don't just memorize this. Find a commitment statement that works for you. I'm going to do everything in my power so that the Benjamins don't get in the way of the floors. Okay, whatever. I don't care. You make this your own statement. Okay. I'm going to do, but what you're doing is you're setting up, this is a little Easter egg because I'm going to have to use this. I might have to use this later in the close when I need it, but I'm giving the customer a promise. I'm not going to let price or payment stand in the way. You guys want these floors, and I'm not going to let price or payment stand in the way of getting you the floors that you love and deserve. Okay. Now, next week, we'll get into the close and we'll get into, all right, so now that we've done a great job in steps 1 through 7, now how do we close this thing? How do we land this plane and actually put money in the bank? Okay. So, homework. I need you to continue to practice the company story. Keep working on it. You should be less than 12 minutes. Actually, you should probably be less than 10 minutes by now, and it should be smooth. There should be transitions between slides. This should be a very smooth thing for you now. I'm going to ask you to memorize some questions. I'm going to show you those questions on the next screen. Continue to go on ride-alongs and get 5 reference list pictures. Of course, you still got a little bit left in Floor U. I promise you, the week 5 in Floor U is much less than any other week. It's on purpose that way. This is a week to be able to catch stuff up, okay? There's 2 sets of questions, 4 questions in total. There's 2 sets of questions that I want you to loosely memorize, okay? The first one is what's called a bridge the gap question. Is this more than you thought it would be? That's it. That's a simple question. We're going to put some context around it next week. Is this more than you thought it would be? And then the second set of questions, and please just reserve judgment until next week. I know the third question is going to set some people backwards. It's okay. You'll understand the value of the third question when we work through it. For now, I'm not asking you to walk up to people in the street and ask it. I just want you to memorize this question, okay? How much did you think a project like this would cost? And now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you see why this would be more than you expected? Okay, now I'm not asking the customer, we'll go into details next week. I'm not asking the customer to validate my price. I'm not even asking them, do you understand why, this is 20 grand instead of 10 grand? I'm just asking, do you understand why it's more than you thought it would be? Okay, good. And then the third question, which, yeah, I know everybody's going to throw up a little bit in their mouth. It's okay. Now that you've seen the price, how long would it take for you to come up with the rest of the money? And I know in isolation, that looks like a horrible question to ask people. It really isn't. We're going to put some context around it next week. And I promise you by the end of next week, you'll still want to throw up a little bit in your mouth, but it won't be as bad. Okay. It's okay. It really is okay. All right. You ask this question the first time in somebody's home and you feel really weird about it. And the second time it's not so weird. And by the third time, it's like, okay, this is just normal. Okay. So just bear with me for now. Just know these questions. Okay. Is this more than you thought it would be? How much did you think a project like this would cost? Now that you see what we do and how we do it, can you see why this is more than you expected? And now that you've seen the price, how long would it take for you to come up with the rest of the money? We will dive into those in detail and break them down and analyze them next week, and we will work through that together. So let's talk for just a minute about next week. Yes, you have a lot of time on your calendar with me next week. So we will start on Tuesday. These times are Eastern time. So Tuesday, you will be on my Zoom, this same training Zoom. You'll be on my Zoom from 11 a.m. until 4:30ish, okay? Somewhere between 4 and 4:30, I'll let you take off. And then design associates, you will get with your franchise owner or another DA in your business. That's okay too. And you need to go do a full appointment with somebody. Now, ideally, that means that you're doing a full appointment at a customer's house and the franchise owner is giving you feedback. And that's the ideal situation. If you don't have an appointment, get with your franchise owner and have them pretend to be a customer and do a full appointment where your franchise owner is pretending to be the customer. You need to do a full appointment. Now, franchise owners that are on the call here, so I'm talking to Dan and Keith and Brett and Greg, you guys, next week, you're going to be assigned to one of the ops coaches. And during that period of time, I will leave it up to the ops coaches and you guys to pick a time. I don't care. It just has to be sometime that evening. You're going to run through the sales system with an ops coach, or we'll end up breaking it up into bits of it so that you can work in a small group with an ops coach. At the end of each day, at the end of each night, either you, your franchise owner, your ops coach, somebody is going to document for me on the sales, on the competency evaluation model. Somebody's going to document for me the highs, the lows, the goods, the bads, what do we need to work on? And those are going to get sent to me every night. My day starts, normally, my day starts at about 4 o'clock in the morning. And the very first thing that I do is I read through every one of those competency evaluation models, every one that gets sent to me. And I structure the next day's training based on what I see. So I have like 110 different exercises that I pull from, depending on what the class needs. And the only way I know what the class needs is through those evaluation models. It's the only way I know. So if your franchise owner sends me an evaluation model that says, oh, Jennifer was great, she did everything perfectly, well, then it tells me I don't have to do anything to help Jennifer. And that may or may not be the case. Okay, so having everything that looks great, although it feels good, is probably not helpful, if that makes sense. So Friday, the schedule looks a little different. I will remind you of this next week. Friday, the schedule looks a little bit different. The evaluation time sort of ends up in the middle of the day, so to speak. We'll work through that. I know sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't work. It's okay. We'll make it, we'll do the best we can with that. Next week, all the little pieces will come together. Normally by Wednesday, Thursday at the latest, people say, oh, wait a minute, now I see how all this flows together. And it does flow together. Questions about next week? Schedule for next week.
Arlen, should we have a bunch of product just standing by for the presentations for each day or in particular?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. You should have, you don't have to bring in the whole van, but maybe have a couple of hardwoods, a couple of vinyls, a couple of carpets, just 2 or 3 of each. Okay. All right. If you missed today, there's your makeup word. Very fitting for this week. Very fitting for this week. Surely somebody has already figured out why that's fitting for this week, but anyway.
March Madness.
Hey, Arlen, when are you going to reveal the linkage between all your lovely webinar quotes here?
You haven't figured it out yet?
No, not even close.
Somebody has figured this out yet.
Irish flag.
Viva Ireland! Viva Ireland!
This is the Irish flag. All right, so let's go. Let's see what we can do here.
You gonna play Kelly's Wellies?
I'm not going to play anything, although that would be okay.
No drop kick.
This is the connection. This is the connection. They are, all of the code words are song names from this band.
Huh.
And if you've never heard of them, you probably have heard of it. Has anybody seen the movie Titanic? Of course. I mean, everybody's seen the movie Titanic, right? So the party on the third deck, the party where they go downstairs, the band that played that party is Gaelic Storm. That's who that was years ago. And that's sort of their big claim to fame. They're probably the most touring band of any band out there. They tour like 200 nights a year still. I mean, they're out there all the time. They're incredibly open to their fans and just down to earth people. But if you ever find yourself like in a funk and you just need a good Irish drinking song to get you going, run out there and grab a Gaelic Storm song, and it I don't know, it works for me anyway. All right, good stuff, guys. I will see you next week.
Thank you, Arlen.
Thanks so much, Arlen.
Thanks, Arlen.
Thank you.
Arlen, we
Thank
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Arlen.
Thank you so much.
See you Tuesday.
Thanks, Arlen.